Hello, my name's Kathy Bissell. Welcome to the Golf Show 2.0. My co-host, Gary Van Sickle, and I are pleased to meet with Jay Delsing, who has a lot of things going on that nobody knows about yet. So, Jay, tell us all.
Hey, Kathy and Gary, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, most everything happens without me these days, you guys, and I'm usually a couple of steps behind. But yeah, we wrote a friend of mine, Will Salisbury, had talked me into writing a book, and we dropped it on June 3rd. And yeah, it's a short collection of stories and things like that from my years on the PGA Tour and some of the fun people that I had the pleasure of meeting. And guys, the book is basically this: there's a lot of famous people, and then there's this one guy who doesn't belong in there, and that's me. And it's really true though. And I mean, I owe so much to golf. Gary and I were talking, Kathy, off air about just how fortunate I am and how lucky and what a great game, the game of golf is. It's a uniter. And I call this on my show, it's a societal powerhouse. It raises so much money. I just read an article the other day that the charitable footprint of golf in the United States this year, $4.3 billion. That's
Wow.
how golf will raise around our country. And it dwarfs the other sports, you guys. Not even in the same ballpark. You can combine NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, and the NHL, and they're not even in the conversation.
The last time I looked at those numbers, they were not even in the conversation. Well, and you have some connections with Major League Sports. So for people who don't know, why don't you tell us about the Tigers shirt that's behind you?
Yeah, but so my dad played 10 years in the big leagues, back from like 1949 to 1960. He played on the 49 New York Yankees team when they won the World Series, which I still have this. Guys, this World Series ring from 1949 looks like one of your high school class rings. It's not this, gaudy thing that some of the players, listen, if I had one of those, I don't care what it would look like. I'd wear it all the time. So my dad was with the 49 Yankees when they won the World Series, and he had a 10-year Major League Baseball career. My nephew is Taylor Twellman. He is one of the best U.S. soccer players of all time. He's the lead analyst for Apple now. He is with ESPN for 13 years. And so we're sports junkies over here, man. If there was a ball around, we would kick it, throw it, we would shank it. We'd do all sorts of whatever we could with it. And so I've got some game use bats in my office, and my daughters, I have 4 daughters. 2 of them played volleyball at high levels in college, so I have some of their jerseys. I don't have any of my stuff. There's really not much to hang of mine in here, but only important people get on the wall. And I didn't make the cut, but my dad's jersey sure did.
Well, I had a baseball game where it recreates the season and with actual stats and accuracy and all that, and I had the 57 season, which what your dad, I think, was on the Tigers in 57.
He was.
So had I known, I would have, I should have used him a lot. I don't remember how much I even used that, but it's funny. So, you've glossed over you've buried the lead, Jay. You're the lead. You've written a book, and remind people the title, because we didn't say that. You got to promote this, Jay.
Sorry, the title is called "You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You." And it's an unforgettable story about a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour. So I basically started as a caddy. I'm the 4th of 5. And, most people would think, oh, my gosh, your dad played in the MLB. This was back in the day. My dad grew up on a dairy farm in Wisconsin. And I'll tell you a funny story, you guys, that's not golf-related, but they won the World Series in 49, and my dad got to play center field because Joe DiMaggio, if you recall, had a virus and was out of commission. And they brought my dad back in the next year and said, Jim Delsing, we'd like you to play for the Yankees. My dad said, hell, this guy's name was Art Richmond. He was the general manager for the Yankees. He said, well, Art, I'd love to play for the Yankees too. And he said, Jim, we're going to pay you $5,000. And my dad said, Art, is that negotiable at all? And he said, yeah, take it or leave it. That's what it was. Take it or leave it. $5,000. So my dad took that, obviously. He got a full share of his World Series portion. and bought my mom's wedding ring with that. And so my parents were married right about that time. And
the Yankees were notorious for lowballing their players on salary and saying, well, don't worry, you'll get a World Series share that'll probably be bigger than what you make. And that's how they, of course, they had all the power. The owners had all the power back then too, but they were notorious for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Totally different era. So I grew up as a caddy, started caddying at a local golf course when I was about 13, but I started playing golf at a Muni, down in North St. Louis County. This golf course I grew up on isn't even around anymore. Okay. There's some soybeans on it, but it's not a very good soybean field either. And it was just down by the Mississippi River. It would flood all the time, but okay. You guys, when you're young and you're starting out, you don't really know what you don't know. And the fact that I just got to play golf, I remember saving all my money for $200. We could play at this course as many times a day as you wanted all year long. And so that was the goal. And so I started caddying and then went over to this place called Norwood Hills Country Club. We have a Champions Tour event there now in St. Louis. It's a wonderful old school golf course. Ben Hogan won the 1948 PGA Championship there. That's where I basically learned how to play golf. And, the game of golf kind of bit me, you guys, and I'm so grateful because it hasn't let go. And I'm 64 and I still get to talk with you guys, still get to chat about golf. And it's just been a great ride. And it's kind of like I'm dreaming still, and I don't want anybody to wake me up, just want this thing to keep going.
You did pretty well. You hung on the PGA Tour quite a while. You won twice on the Buy.com Tour. One was a playoff. You're in the Missouri and the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fames.
That's great.
You made the cut in 3 of the 4 majors. You never got into Masters. We're coming up on British Open week, Jay, and you might want to tell us about how you finished 88th in the British Open in, was it 93?
94.
That was a big cut.
Yeah, I got to play at St. Andrews with, it was Arnold Palmer's last.
95 it was, yeah.
Last time, and it was just absolutely awesome to get to play at St. Andrews. And I had gone over the week before and played, David Faraday got me an exemption in the Scottish Open, and I played at Carnoustie the week before and then went over and qualified for the British. It was just a thrill. And, it's interesting. I was playing pretty well at the time and made the cut. That was when the cut was so big, you guys, because they still had the 10-shot rule.
10 shots, yep.
So we didn't have a whole lot of that high wind the first 2 days, so the scores were kind of packed in there. And then I remember on Sunday, the wind blowing from a completely different direction. My caddy, who was also an Irishman, and I still swear at Faraday for this, but he had zero idea what to do when the wind was blowing out of this direction. He didn't have any information, so we were kind of out there. But it was a great experience just getting to play over there. Had I known what I know now, it wouldn't have been a bad place to start your career. You wouldn't have made a lot of money over there, but I think I would have probably been a little bit of a better player because those conditions just force you to play golf and not worry so much about your swing and all these other things. And that's kind of makes a lot of sense to me and my brain, the way I kind of think.
Yeah. Well, if you'd need a lot of money and a place to,
it's
have a home base from, because there's a lot of travel. The European Tour, well, back then the European Tour was more in Europe, but I mean, nowadays
Singapore,
the UK barely even gets a European Tour event.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I mean, that's what a global game we have, though. I mean, look at the PGA Tour, and the fact that the PGA Tour is condensing is the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life. First of all, there's more really good players than you've ever heard in your life. Yes. And you may never get a chance to hear them. One of the things that pisses me off, you guys, is Wyndham Clark wins the U.S. Open. The year before that, he's outside of the top 100 ranked golfers in the world, and now he's an advocate for not, allowing more than 100 people that are world ranked to get to play on tour. That's just blind to me. I just don't get it. If we'd have done that for him, we may not have ever heard of Wyndham Clark.
Right.
Yeah.
And the tournaments aren't going to shrink in size, though. They're going to take the same number of players every week, most likely, except those signature events, don't you think?
Well, so what they're doing is there's less exempt players, Kathy. So
Right.
instead of 125, there's only 100.
100, right. Well, it used to be
people are going to lose their jobs.
Used to be 60 years ago.
Yeah, right. But then they had, then they opened it up and you had a chance to qualify every week.
Right.
And those qualifiers were not 4 spots like they are now. I mean, it's a tough one, man. There's more money than we know what to do with, and what we are doing with it, in my opinion, is really crazy as well. I mean, our business model that the PGA Tour is using right now, you guys, it's not sustainable. We don't have enough money to sustain these $20 million purses and these elevated events. And who even talks about the tier system that is created within our sponsors? If I'm a sponsor and I'm not getting I'm not an elevated event, my field's going to suck this year.
Yeah.
Well, depending on whether or not the player lives there, right, or has some ties to the community, or really feels strongly about the event, you're just not going to see the top players.
I thought the PGA Tour learned this lesson when they started the World Golf Championships, because those events were the same thing. Here's a semi-major, draws all the best players, and so for each one of those, Tiger Woods has to play in. There's a regular tour event he now will never play, and they, it's like Coke selling Diet Coke, and they sell Diet Coke at the expense of selling Coke. And it hurt a lot of tournaments, and now they've done the same thing. But I agree, based on, I would argue that based on the amount of money now and based on the amount of ratings and people who follow golf, I would say PGA Tour players are now overpaid compared to other sports, because they don't have the eyeballs anywhere near basketball, football, or baseball. And now they're making numbers way out of whack with who watches.
I'm an advocate for all of us to make as much money as we possibly can. I don't think markets are stupid. If someone's willing to pay you, they say baseball players are overpaid. Well, then why did they get that money? Someone thought that Bryce Harper is worth $35 million a year, or on and on down the line. But with the golfers, and the fact that we don't have the ratings like we do, it's going to be interesting when we have a new media package and a television situation due in 2030, and it's going to be interesting, because it's going to be the first time, you guys, in the last 25 years that Tiger Woods is not going to be an entity that everyone's going to care about.
Well, the question is he going to play the Champions Tour? Because it may be the boost that tour has always needed.
Kathy, if he plays the Champions Tour, there's not one Champions Tour tournament that has enough tickets, that has enough security, that has enough
parking or anything.
Nothing. He will blow those tournaments away. And it would be a great boost for the Champions Tour, because it's really kind of an obscure tour now. It's got great players, great names on there, but no one watches our
They don't have that really marquee name that could have been. I mean, we could have been watching the Phil Mickelson era in senior golf, but
could have
that, because he played like 7 events and won 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
But then he got a better deal that he couldn't pass up. You probably turned down some big live money, right, Jay?
Gary, I don't begrudge the guys from taking live money. Greg Norman obviously lost my phone number. Didn't call me, but
that's too bad.
I have 4 daughters. If some dude wanted to unbuckle and give me $30-40 million in the middle of raising these girls, I'd been like,
you're there.
I'm done. I would have never sued the PGA Tour. I would have never said I want my cake and eat it too. I got to tell you, I'm a John Rahm fan, but he's absolutely miserable right now, boys and girls. He is miserable, because he gets 14 tournaments a year, sprinkle in the occasional major. He just doesn't. Let's put it this way: when the Memorial Tournament is on, those guys all have buyer's remorse. Bryson DeChambeau, Cameron Smith, Patrick Reed, they are dying to be playing the Jack's event. I'll just put it out. And for the players and some of the others.
But you're right. They made smart business decisions, especially Koepka and DeChambeau, who, because of injuries, were worried they might not be the same players they were. So yeah, I don't begrudge them the money. It's just funny how they think they're going to have a merger of any kind, because the PGA Tour starts with a premise: Live must go away. Well, Live, this is like trying to get Israel and Iraq to the negotiating table. That's, there is no middle ground. So, well, Jay, we need to get back to your book. Tell us, which is, you wouldn't believe
me if I told you.
I told you. Yeah, I don't believe you. Yeah. But tell us
one or two things we wouldn't believe.
Some famous names in there, Trevino or Jack or somebody. Tell us nuggets.
So guys, when I got a golf scholarship to UCLA, so
wow.
One of the things that was evident to me because of our financial situation is that this college was going to be on me. We had to figure this out. So when I started winning tournaments and I almost won the U.S. Junior, I sent out 250 of my resumes to every single college that was south of St. Louis in Missouri. Anything that was warm, I'm in. And I wound up choosing UCLA, and it was just absolutely wonderful. But my parents give me a hug and a kiss at the curbside at Lambert Airport. That's our airport. I walked in with my golf clubs and a suitcase that's this big that I got for high school graduation, and the idea was fill it up and get going. And I go out to LA, and I don't know one person. Now, if you've ever flown into LAX, it's a terrifying airport.
Yeah,
completely different than St. Louis, because I fly in and out of that one.
Amen, Kathy. So I'm out there. Some person that I don't know is going to pick me up, and so I retrieve my luggage, and I'm standing there like a country bumpkin, waiting for somebody to kidnap me. Right.
Right.
And some guy comes up to me and says, "Are you Jay Delsing?" And I said, "I am. I'm so-and-so. I'm here to take you to, your home." And I'm like, "Great, let's go." So I get in the car. You do that today, and you're probably in Tijuana.
Yeah.
Who the hell knows? But
chopped up in pieces.
Right. It takes me to, no lie, guys, into Bel-Air Westgate, drops me off at a home from Mrs. McCulloch. Her husband invented the chainsaw. She wasn't home. It's probably a $5 to $10 million home back in 1979. I grew up in a 1,000 square foot home, 1 bathroom, 5 kids, 2 adults. Anyway, I said to this guy, "What are we doing?" He goes, "This is where you're living." And he hands me a key, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" "This is where you're living." And I'm like, "Okay." So now there's a note. It's giving me directions. I go in. There's some dogs that I need to take care of. And I'm like, "What?" So my bedroom, you guys, has a walk-in closet, my own bathroom, my own shower, and it's at least as big as the family room in the home I grew up in. It is huge. And so I'm like, okay, wow. All right. So now I'm in California. A week or two later, I get called from Eddie Marin's. Now, this happens to be on the 9th tee of Bel-Air Country Club. It is, you can look it up now. The address is 555 Perugia Way. You can look it up, and it's spectacular. Go to Google Earth. It's absolutely spectacular. The home was on the market not long ago for $32 million. Anyway, I get called.
Did you buy it?
I went to, thought about it. Then I was like, with what? What am I going to do? I got to sell a lot of books, Gary. Let's go. Anyway, Eddie Marin's, our coach, wants me to come up, and he wants to watch me hit some putts. So I'm up there putting around, and it's in the evening, and I get a tap on my shoulder in this very familiar accent that says, "Young man, would you care to play 9 holes of golf with me?" I turn around. This is 1979, you guys. Sean Connery is standing in front of me.
Wow.
And I said,
that would be right for Bel-Air, though.
I said, "Oh, no, Mr. Connery, I'm not a member. I don't even know what I'm doing here." And he's like, "No, you're part of the UCLA golf team. I see your golf bag." I said, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Well, the pro shop said you could play. Would you like to play?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." So like a little puppy, I run over and I grab my club, like, I'm going to play golf. I'm like, holy cow. Now, guys, no life experiences. I have no business spending 2 hours with the coolest man alive back in 1979. Well, one of the things we do in the book is we give little bios about the important people that we meet. And Sean was like 6'1", former Mr. Universe.
I didn't remember that.
Contestant. His movies have grossed over like $4 billion. Yeah. Things, kind of fun stuff. We give his height, his weight. So anyway, we're playing golf, and it is fantastic. We go up to the 9th hole. It's getting dark out, and the winter in Southern Cal.
Yeah.
By 5 o'clock, you got nothing. So
right.
I'm walking about 4 or 5 feet from him, and I said to him, and it took me about 3 holes. We said, would you quit calling me Mr. Connery and just call me Sean? So I'm going to James Pond as Sean, and I said, Sean, I think we should play the back 9. And he says, I'm having a hard time seeing my ball as it is. And I said, I know, me too, but I don't want this day to end. And he says, well, why don't you come in and have a drink with me? Now I'm 18. I'm like, I'm in. So the 9th hole at Bel-Air is in a canyon. You get on the green, you exit to the left. This is one of the coolest golf courses you'll ever go to. You walk through a tunnel. You go about 30 yards in this tunnel, press a button, an elevator comes down. This is only the second time I've ever done this. I'm this far from Sean Connery, just following him. Like, I don't want to lose him. I don't want him to change his mind. I don't know what. So this elevator takes us up into the middle of the men's locker room, which I've never been to before. He directs me, put your clubs over here. Now I'm following him, and he goes, come on, we'll go over to the men's grill, we'll have a beer. I'm like, how cool is this? I'm going to have a beer with James Bond. So we run into a couple of buddies of his. He introduces me, yes, sir, no, sir, I'm saying. And I'm thinking to myself, I have Sean Connery. I don't care who you are. This is so cool. So they say some pleasantries, say goodbye. We turn the corner, and he stops me, and he goes, you probably want to pay attention to those guys. They're very creative and are going to do some great things in Hollywood. It was Stephen Spielberg and George Lucas. and guys,
was he wrong?
In 1979, that didn't mean anything to me.
No, it didn't mean anything to anybody.
It was coming out, so I'm like, whatever. And so we put in there, I think Steven Spielberg's got a net worth of like $6 billion. George Lucas is like 5.5. We put, weight indeterminate for George because he's kind of short, stocky. And Steven Spielberg's like 5'7", 140 pounds. And so we just had some fun with some of those little things like that. So I got to sit in the men's grill, have 2 beers with Sean Connery. And he says to me, this is really interesting, do you know who Barbara Walters is? I didn't want to sound like a dumb. So I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, good, because she's interviewing me. She interviewed me this week, and it's going to air on Saturday. You should watch it. I think you'll get a kick out of it. And I'm like, okay. So I go back to Mrs. McCulloch's. We sit down. She goes, how was your day? I go, I got to play with Sean Connery. What does she say? He's such a nice man, isn't he? Of course, all you famous people know one another. Anyway, I go, who is Barbara Walters? And she says, oh my gosh, she's one of the most famous interviewees of the interviewers. She's with ABC, the whole 9 yards. And I said, oh, good, because Sean's going to be interviewed that Saturday. So she and I sit down and watch it. You can YouTube this, guys. At one point in the interview, Sean says, every woman deserves a good slap every now and then. And I'm sitting there with my jaw open, and Mrs. McCulloch didn't think one thing about it. It was just a different era.
Incredible. Did your light go off or something?
No, look at how it's so much darker. I didn't have any natural light in here. You need me to turn my light on real quick?
Turn your light on real quick.
All right, hang on just a second.
What great stories. Oh, that's much better. Besides, it's better for the shirt, too.
Okay.
Golf with Delsing. Do you sell those?
What's that?
The golf with Delsing.
So having 4 daughters, of course, I've got my second daughter, Gemma. It's just she is a e-commerce whiz, and she runs an e-commerce business. So you can go to the Jay Delsing Golf Shop and get your stuff. I said to my daughter, I said, who's really going to buy a shirt with my name on it? And she goes, you'd be surprised, Dad. And so it's managing that for me. So
I would, look, all golfers, especially me, are logo junkies.
I love it.
We all got to go. I think you just need a little piece of artwork to go with Delsing Golf.
Yeah, it's not on here. We did do a little silhouette thing and added to it. This was one of the ones she probably rejected, and I just wear it because I don't care.
Yeah, hats and shirts with a logo, and I tell golf pros all the time, you should have multiple logos for your club because you buy shirts, you come home, your wife goes, "What do you get another one of those for?" If you have a different logo from the same club, they're not wise that it's the same club, so you can add. But people like variety. So who else? That's an incredible story about Sean Connery. I wonder if they considered Sean Connery for the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wish I could do a Sean Connery impression. I could do some Obi-Wan lines, but I can't.
Gary,
that's
if
incredible.
You had Sean's accent, it'd be all over, man. This guy was the coolest person.
Yeah.
I just wish I'd had some life experiences under my belt to know what kind of questions to ask him, because now I'd just be peppering him. He was asking me questions about how to hit a golf ball. You know, when I'm 18, I'm like, I just kind of look at it and hit it. I don't think too much about it. So I'll tell you another kind of interesting story, guys. You've been to the AT&T Pebble Beach. I played in that tournament 26 years in a row. And, Pebble Beach is just iconic. There's no real driving range, so they use the polo field there, and they build these structures for us to have some food and some workout facilities and things like that. It's just wonderful. And so the drill is typically about an hour and a half before your tee time, 2 hours before you go in, grab a little something to eat, get a little workout in, go to the range, hit some balls, and then get ready to play. So I'm in there. I just grab a light little something to eat. I didn't like to eat much before I played. So I'm just sitting there by myself, and this young guy, looks like he's about 12, comes up to me and says, "Hey, man, just can I sit here?" I go, "Yeah, hey, yeah, no worries. I'll sit down." I go, "I'm Jay." He goes, "I'm Justin." I said, "Okay, what's up, Justin? How'd you play?" He goes, I think I'd had a good round. He goes, "I saw your name on the leaderboard." I said, "Yeah, I had a good day yesterday." And I asked what pro he was playing with and all this stuff. And we're just talking and hanging out. And again, it is nothing. I mean, it is 7:00 in the morning, and I am thinking, I don't know who this is, but he's very friendly. And so after about 15 minutes or so, I'm like, "Hey, man, I got to go." He goes, "Yeah, me too. I'll walk out with you." So we walk out together. I shake his hand. I'm like, "Hey, man, I hope I see you here again." He goes, "Yeah, keep playing well and do well." I'm like, "Yeah, good to see you." So he goes this way. I go that way. And my caddy is standing there with his jaw open. And he goes, "How long have you known Justin Timberlake?" And I said, "Who's that?" And he goes, "You don't know who Justin Timberlake is? He's in a boy band." And I go, "Hence, that's why I don't know. I don't know, but I like rock music." Like if you told me it was Jimmy Page, I'd been like, "Yeah, he's in with Led Zeppelin." I don't know who Justin
Did you have daughters at that point? Because they would have known.
I called home that night, Gary. I heard all about it. They're like, "What are you talking about?" I go, "Yeah, I don't know. Some guy named Justin Timberlake just asked if he could sit next to me so we could have breakfast together." And my daughters were like, "You got to be kidding me."
Did they ask to go to breakfast with you every day?
Yeah, they wanted to go to the tournament for sure. And you guys, that's some of the things that golf does, though. It just unites people. And I tell people that people like tennis, and tennis is a great sport, but you're not going to go to a special place and play tennis and have the court be any different than the damn court you play at home.
Except Wimbledon, where it's grass.
And you're not going to play You're not going to play half court pro-am basketball with Michael Jordan.
You're not going to get to do any of that. You're not going to hit drop shots with Djokovic. You're not going to get to do any of that stuff. But you get this stuff with golf. You get to go to these special places. And if you participate in a PGA Tour or a PGA Tour Champions event, you're getting to play with these guys the day before they compete. You guys, it's absolutely a differentiator in every sport. There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
Plus, you've got stories to tell all of your friends forever.
Oh my gosh, it's absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I'm like, you guys had to feel pretty excited when you could have got Tiger Woods, but you got Jay Delsing, and they're like, "Yeah, we didn't know who the hell you were." And I'm like, I don't. I remember one time playing in the LA Open. I was my rookie year, and I got to know the PGA Tour officials pretty well, and they said to me, "Hey, do you want to play in the Pro-Am?" It was on Wednesday. I give my caddies Wednesdays off when I wasn't in the Pro-Am, because I like to be by myself. And I was just going down to hit some balls. And I go, "Sure, but I don't have a caddy." They go, "We'll hook you up with a caddy." I said, "When am I off?" They're like, "Now." And I'm like, "Oh, damn, okay. Whose place am I taking?" And they're like, "Fred Couples." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." You want to talk about disappointment on the first tee, you guys. You're standing up there, and there's all these women around, and they're like expecting Fred Couples, and I walk up on the tee, and they're looking like, did we get the tee time wrong? Did we get? I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah, but you were a pretty good looking guy when you were young. You still are.
Well, I'm glad your screen's blurry, Gary. That's nice of you to say. But well, anyway, it was interesting because people are like, where's Fred? And I'm like, yeah, he's not playing. You got me today. And they're like, okay, but I got to play with the CEO of Nissan. I got to play with John Elway, who I'd played with before. And then I got to play with one of the people that was running North America. And guys, those were some of the very first things where I saw how much action goes on in these pro-ams and how much business is talked about and done amongst these sort of people. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And I try to do it as often as I can nowadays.
That's one reason that women who have been in the golf business have tried to promote more women playing golf, because so much business is done on the golf course. And for years, women were blocked out of that. And having girls, you want them to succeed.
Oh, they're in. You should see that. They get their first one invited because they're all long off the tee, Kathy. And all the girls are like, will you play? And the girls are like, maybe. You know, but they know how to play, and they've used it for their business. It's fun. But
you know what I mean about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that's an area. All of our measurables in the game, you guys are off the charts. Everything, the sim leagues and so many different venues are bringing people in the game, but we still have a long way to go to get more women playing. And that's one of the things that I'm an advocate for, because the women play so much faster than men. They're so much more courteous.
I'll tell you something you can do to help out golf courses that you happen to be playing at if they're complaining about women. What they need to do is to follow the late Alice Dye's advice on properly placing the women's tees. I mean, I remember when I grew up in central Illinois.
Right after the Civil War?
No. He does this to me all the time.
North.
The ladies' tees were about 15 steps in front of the men's tees.
Yeah.
And so on a par 5, the women were lucky if they could get to the green in 4 shots.
Yeah. Nobody's paying attention. That's dumb.
If they had put the tees appropriately forward, then, so that the women could get to the green in 3 shots, then they're taking a shot or 2 less per hole, so they're playing faster. I don't know why people don't do that more often, but that's the way to speed up play.
Well, but look at it's kind of rampant because the men play from the wrong tees all day.
Well, yeah.
Guys, please, man, go forward, move forward.
There's a complete disconnect between reality. I mean, everybody has a disconnect. Club pros, superintendents. I don't know if they still realize that the length of the rough and the speed of the greens is directly related to the pace of play. The number one, we could get detour on pace of play, but for amateur, recreational golf, number one thing is looking for your ball.
No question.
If you cut the rough shorter, it speeds up the search. If number 2 thing is how long it takes on the greens. If everybody's 3-putting because the greens are running at 13, you're trying to be Oakmont, slow them down. Everybody has more fun. They're happier. And you can go on and on. But looking for lost balls far and away is number 1. So cut the rough. But the second part of that is, most people who play golf are not very good at it. I mean, the average handicaps for men and women are like 17 and 29.
I know. And the other thing is,
why are we designing golf courses to hold the U.S. Open when it's 18 handicappers are going to play it? Jack and Arnie and Pete Dye. I mean, we did a lot of things wrong.
Yep. And you know what? There's this weird thing where the golfing public loves to have you come to their course and they, as amateurs, and shoot 140.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is that fun? Oh, we had a great day. What'd y'all shoot? He shot 160. He shot like 145. We putted them all out. I'm like, oh my gosh, it sounds miserable to me. I don't know. I see it all the time. We just we're not
crazy. That's why.
I was in the middle of a 6.5-hour round at Pebble, which was the last time I played there. And Marshall told me, you wouldn't, because we had nothing better to do except talk to him every now and then. He said, you wouldn't believe how many people play their first round of golf here. I said, you mean first of the year or first ever? He goes, oh, no, first ever. Like, why do you let them on the golf course then? But anyways, because they pay. Yeah. Jay, give us one more story. You got an Arnold Palmer story or a Lee Trevino story? We got to get you out of here.
I had the privilege of playing with the king, Mr. Arnold Palmer, 3 times, 3 days in a row. I'll tell you a funny story about I'm playing in his tournament, and it's a Friday. I just finished my Friday round, and I'm somewhere in the top maybe 15 or so. So my name's on the leaderboard somewhere. I'm in the players' dining. I've just walked off the course, and like I said before, I didn't like to eat much. So when I got off the course, I was usually really hungry. So I was going to get something to eat, do a little practice, and get a workout in, and then get out of here. And I'm sitting there by myself. I got my hat on, just sitting here eating.
Oh,
and I get this big meat hook on my left shoulder, and I look up, and it's Mr. Palmer. So I drop my napkin, put my foot down, and I stand up, and I said, and he says, hey, nice playing. And I said, oh, my gosh, Mr. Palmer, first of all, thanks for the tournament. Thank you for this food. Thanks for, doing all this stuff for we players. This is unbelievable. And he grabs me close, just like the nuns used to when I got in trouble, and squeezed my arm and said to me, let me ask you a question. Do you wear that hat at your home?
I sensed that was coming.
I knew that was coming.
Yes, Mr. Palmer, I sure do. And he was pissed. And so he pulled me closer. He said, damn it, stop doing that. Take your hat off and show some respect. This is my home. I deserve for you to show me some respect. Oh, my gosh. I turned bright red, obviously took my hat off, and I was like, I had no idea. I mean, I just had no idea. No one had ever told me that. And so to this day, I walk in the golf shop anywhere and I take my hat off. Yep. I just do not wear my hat inside. But he pats me on the shoulder and he says, I hope you win this damn thing. Good luck on the weekend. Well, I'm like, I'm not hungry anymore. I'm sitting here looking around. Out of here. And 2 of my friends, Brad Faxon and Willie Wood, they come over and I'm like, hey, what's up? And they're like, the king got you, didn't he? And I'm like, I didn't know I wasn't. He goes, he got us yesterday. We're just all dummies. We didn't know. We wore our hats inside,
Not anymore, though.
No, not anymore. And then one other quick Arnold Palmer story. The third day, I got to play 3 days in a row with him in the shootout at Bay Hill. It was just wonderful. We went to a cocktail party. The end, I got invited, and Dick Simmons was just a wonderful guy. He had this massive home and was hosting this party. And you walk in, and there's a big desk that's got your name for a little placard to put on. So I grabbed mine, but then I look, and I'd had a drink or two. And I look down, and I see Mr. Palmer. So I grab his, and I put it on my jacket. And I'm waiting for him to come in because I've spent the last 2 days with him, and it was just awesome. And so he comes in, as you can imagine, the whole world kind of flocks to him. So I'm just kind of hanging out, and I wait for people to kind of dissipate. And I just kind of walk over and shake his hand. And he says, how are we doing? And I said, good. And he notices his name on my lapel, and he says, and what are you doing? I said, I got to play 3 days of golf with you. Were 3 of the best days of my life. All of those stories, all of the fun. I wanted to go to a cocktail party as you.
I bet he loved it.
Like, you better be careful. And I just took the thing off and gave it right to him. But it was really fun. He was so personable, you guys. And so one of the things that he taught us younger players was, you're going back to your community. You're going to show them how to use golf to make their community better. You're going to raise money for hospitals. You're going to help sick children. You're going to help anybody that you can. And that was really, really important to our generation. I'm hoping that the current generation is doing that on tour.
I think they are.
I just don't know, but I'm sure they are. And that was important because that's what Jack and that's what Arnold, Mr. Palmer, and Mr. Nicholas told us to do, and we took it to heart.
Those are great stories, Jay. Tell us again the name of the book, where to get it, the name of your merchandise website, and I believe you've also got a podcast. What are the names of those things, and where can people find you?
I sure do. So here's the book. It's called You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You.
And I'm pretty sure that comes directly from the breakfast with Justin Timberlake when you told your daughters, like, because they didn't believe you.
Like, why would he want to have breakfast with you, Dad? This makes no sense whatsoever. So, yes, you can get this book on my website, jdelsinggolf.com. You can get it at mascotbooks.com. You could go to the Cartel and get it at Amazon. They have it there.
Cartel.
They're fun to deal with when you write a book. I'll tell you, they are really fun to deal with because they dictate everything to you.
Yeah.
They ask you 0 questions. They don't care, and they're like, and I'm like, okay, we'll do it. So that's what we do. So the podcast that we have is called Golf with Jay Delsing. We have an hour national show that's on 50 markets and 64 affiliates. And then I have a local 2-hour show here in the Midwest that we just have a lot of fun with. It's jdelsinggolfshop.com. Anything, it's just basically Golf with Jay Delsing or Jay Delsing Golf. You guys, I really appreciate you letting me.
I want more logos on Delsing Golf.
For another
more logos.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Yeah.